Arizona Wildcat fans, is this what a slump feels like?
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by the fine folks over at Circle K. I am your host, Damon Dog, aka Damon Fairall. That's my guy, Kevo Post, aka Kevin Thomas, and we're here live at PHNX HQ3 here in lovely, beautiful downtown Phoenix. And of course, we are presented by Branded Bills, Kevin. We're presented by Branded Bills. Head on over to brandedbills.com and use promo code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. And we'd be remiss off the top of the show if we didn't mention these brand new Branded Bills lids that we received on the weekend, Kevin. And of course, you shouted out the great Sheila Chavez on our post-game show and gave people a little bit of a taste of these gifts that we were going to be receiving. But the boys had to wear these gifts day one that we were able to on the podcast. Head on over to brandedbills.com and check out the absolute heat Branded Bills is dropping, because I would have used promo code BBPHNX, Kevin, to get me one of these fine, beautiful hats that your boys are sporting here, but we didn't need to because we have great listeners of this show who are so generous, we're so grateful to have them be a part of the community that we're building here. And shout out Sheila for just an unbelievable gift. I mean, does this hat not look fresh or what? Same to you, buddy.
We're styling and profiling today. Shout out to Ric Flair, but also shout out to Sheila, because honestly, Damon, we got to get you to meet Sheila in person, because there is not maybe a more warm and welcoming vibe from anyone I met in Tucson than one Sheila Chavez. Just the most down-to-earth person, Wildcat, that you can find. So, yeah, shout out to
Wildcat,
Sheila.
Kevin, a true Wildcat, Sheila Chavez. And of course, if you guys have been watching over the course of this year, you'd know that Sheila has been battling some pretty major health issues, but just finding ways to just, enjoy life, right? Said that once she got that diagnosis of cancer-free, that she was just going to get season tickets to go watch her favorite basketball teams. And just incredible. Can't wait to go and meet Sheila myself, Kevin. But yeah, these lids are fresh. Branded Bills, they're on top of things. We got Space Unis this past week, and Brandon Bills said, how about we get some space stuff ready to go for the people for this college game day weekend on a Saturday? Now, it didn't go the way that we wanted it to as Arizona fans, but at least we got some fresh lids in the process.
At least we got some fresh lids, and at least we met some cool people down there in Tucson,
and
like
also,
Sheila Chavez. And
Sheila also gave us this great bobblehead as well, which will be featured on the set of every show from here on forward.
To be fair, I'm bringing the bobblehead to the table. Sheila bringing a lot to the table.
Oh, that was
your boy brought the bobblehead.
That was a Kevin
to the
purchase.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood.
I saw that at the merch stand.
I'm giving Sheila credit for it.
I saw that at the merch stand, and we can give Sheila credit for it. But I did see it at the merch stand, and I had my media pass on, and I quickly did one of these, just right into the shirt, and I was like, I gotta get this. I gotta buy the limited edition Wilbur bobblehead. Just 2023 in the world. I guess that came out that year. So. Yeah, shout out to Wilbur, shout out to Sheila, shout out to everybody in the chat joining us so early today on the show. We do have a pretty packed show today, considering all things involved. I know we're going to talk about the dreaded potential of a mini slump here for the Arizona Wildcats, and we're going to talk about Koa Peat's health updates. We're going to talk about some things going on around the Big 12, such as Jerome Tang, shout out my label that is putting the labels on his boxes as he moves out of Kansas for good. But yeah, we have a lot to talk about today, Damon, but I do want to start it off with the news of the day. Arizona ranked 4th in the AP poll. They have been on top of the AP poll for 9 weeks heading into this week, a program record at the time. But now you have Michigan at number 1 at 24-1 in the Big Ten. You have Houston at number 2, 23-2. Duke at number 3 at 23-2, and then you have Arizona also at 23-2 at number 4, ahead of UConn, Iowa State, and Purdue. Damon, what are your instant reactions to these rankings?
It's the Duke show. It's the Duke show, Kevin. That's my instant reaction to these rankings. I assumed we were going to drop behind not only Michigan, but Houston as well. Houston has obviously been playing great basketball. They didn't sustain 2 straight losses in the course of the week, and now Arizona and Houston have the same record. So that doesn't discourage me. Duke does to an extent, Kevin, because what has Duke truly done that makes them, in the opinion of all these voters, puts them above the Arizona Wildcats? That's what I'm trying to kind of figure out. I mean, they play absolutely nobody, and then they run into one of the only legit teams on their schedule in North Carolina, and they lose. They lose to them, right? And that seems to be the way of the ACC these days, right? It's Duke runs through the conference, has 3 games on their entire conference schedule that are even 50-50, if even 50-50. They're just losable games, and the rest are guaranteed W's, whereas the Big 12 is nothing like that. I mean, even in the games against the some of maybe the lesser teams in the conference, TCU can give you a game. They can go toe-to-toe with you for a minute, right? And they did against Arizona. Like, the Big 12 is just straight up different. And I feel a little bit disrespected here from a national media standpoint, seeing that big Duke logo next to number 3 with the Wildcats kind of on the hierarchy right below them.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to you and Noah earlier this morning when you guys came into the office, and I think maybe Noah asked, like, where do we think Arizona is going to be? And I was like, well, probably on that 3 or 4 line if we're doing the AP poll today, because I think based on merit, Arizona should be ranked ahead of Duke. However, as we're going to get into here in a second, I can see the arguments for why a Duke would be ahead of Arizona. I disagree with them, but I can at least see the logic there. We're going to get to that here in a little bit. I have some resume comparisons to look at between Arizona, Michigan, Duke, and Houston to see where we really think that Arizona should fall. Because I agree, Michigan at this point deserves that number 1 slot. It feels like they've been waiting to do that for weeks now. At this point,
yeah,
Houston truly deserves to be up there. They've been playing incredible basketball. And I think Duke, we can broach this conversation now. I think that while I agree with you, this is the ACC is the Duke show, they have played some better teams than I think I've given them credit for. They've beaten Louisville twice. They've beaten a pretty competitive SMU side who's top 40 in KenPom. Clemson is also top 35 in KenPom. And most importantly, coming up is a real test for the Duke Blue Devils. I believe Saturday, February 21st, this college, the NCAA is doing something really cool where you got a non-conference, absolute marquee matchup thrown in the midst of conference season. You got Duke versus Michigan, Saturday, February 21st at a neutral site. I think that's going to be, I mean, we're talking about learning what you need to know about these teams. You're going to learn just about everything you need to know about Michigan and Duke on Saturday, February 21st. So, yeah, I think that these are the top 4 teams. I think this is correct. I think you could argue Arizona on the 3 line there. I think you could argue Duke on the 4 line. But I think that this is pretty accurate, Damon. I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's what
back-to-back losses hurt.
It's what you expect from a back-to-back losses standpoint. And, I think I was not the only one with this opinion, but I was trying to, before the Texas Tech game, pound the drum for, guys, if Arizona wins this one against Texas Tech, they absolutely unequivocally should still be the number 1 team in the country. And then you go out there and you lose a second straight game. And now you got BYU on Wednesday, and we'll talk about that game tomorrow much more, but I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit today. A Richie Saunderless BYU team, which does make a massive impact, especially I think with the way that BYU needs to beat Arizona. Like, Richie Saunders was kind of the driving factor and force behind BYU's comeback the first time around. And I do think that this is a major impact on how this one will play out on Wednesday. But then you got Houston. And it's right back to this absolute gauntlet. Not that BYU is an easy game, but it almost makes it where you have to win that BYU game because you can't drop 3 in a row with Houston on the horizon on the road and the opportunity to drop 4 in a row, Kevin. That would be an absolute unmitigated disaster. So this BYU game becomes extremely important for Arizona. Got to take care of business. Got to find a way to protect home court because you lost home court in your last matchup at home there, which is unfamiliar territory for Arizona. We usually are very solid at the McHale Center. And maybe it's the Alekeme Arena stink that is being, put on everything. But yeah, it's just it's disappointing when you think, man, we should be able to keep that number 1 spot, and then you end up falling all the way to number 4. Not egregious, but and not shocking. But
yeah,
I just don't really look at Duke's resume and say to myself, man, what a squad they got over there. I mean, you get ranked wins against, like, the difference in ranked wins between an Arizona and a Duke team, to me, are just it's night and day, Kevin. I mean, your ranked W is against, a Darren Peterless Kansas team, which I know Arizona lost to that team, but the road environment aspect of things is extremely important in that game. You talk about Louisville, who I think is okay, but I think they've kind of proven that they're not really that upper echelon team. They can beat up on the bad ACC teams, but they're not really up there with the top dogs, right? You get a ranked win against SMU, who is not a ranked caliber team, right? I mean, that's like USC's, the ranked win for USC against Michigan earlier this year, where it's like, it counts, I guess, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't count. And then they just beat Clemson on the weekend, who, Clemson is okay, but they're not great. And so I do think that, like, the value of these ranked wins for Duke versus Arizona are a little bit different. The scale to which I think is not exactly the same, but ultimately, Arizona does deserve to fall with the nightmare week that just unfolded.
We're talking about the ACC. I would have been pretty interested to see. I don't think that Duke has Miami on their conference schedule this year.
Miami's scrappy.
Maybe that's what got axed for the Michigan game, potentially. I don't know how that worked scheduling-wise. I'm just kind of speculating there. But, like, I would have been really interested to see how Duke fares against Miami, mostly because Miami is kind of, from what I understand, I haven't watched a ton of Miami this year. From what I understand, they are kind of an Arizona-like team where they are points in the paint, primarily focused, like grind you down, wear you out kind of a squad, and hopefully they can, win by war of attrition. I would like to see how Duke goes against that. But I think Duke is quite a good squad. I don't think they're on the level of a Houston. I don't think they're on the level of a Michigan or an Arizona in terms of, like, when I look at them, am I scared to play them?
Mm-hmm.
But I think anytime you got Boozer, you got Isaiah Evans, you got John Shire, you have a ton of complementary talent on that team as well. I think that Duke is quite a formidable squad. But let's look at their actual resume. Let's do a little bit of resume comparison here and see what we got. So there's a lot of numbers on the screen right now. And for our audio listeners, what we're looking at here is a resume comparison between Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and Houston, your top 4 teams right there. Now, Michigan coming in number 1 in the net, and these are in order of net ranking: Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and Houston, which I thought was pretty interesting there. Ken Pom, 1, 2, 3, 4 across the board as well. Now, I thought strength of schedule and out-of-conference strength of schedule, Damon, was also quite interesting, where Arizona comes in at 29th, out-of-conference schedule at 35th, and then these Big Ten and ACC sides are coming in a lot higher than that. I thought that was quite interesting. But when you look at these resumes for both specifically Arizona and Duke, Duke's sitting at 23-2. Arizona also sitting at 23-2. In Quad 1, Duke is 10-2. Arizona's 9-2. Duke's 2 losses to Texas Tech by 1, North Carolina by 3, Arizona's to Kansas by 4 on the road, and Texas Tech by 3 at home. This is kind of what I was getting at. If you are one of these voters for the AP poll that looks at, metrics and looks at charts and looks at Evan Mia and looks at Ken Pom and kind of compiles it all, I can see how you get to Duke at 3. I can see how you get there. As an Arizona guy myself, I think Arizona has had a tougher year ahead of them than Duke has, albeit I guess the metrics don't necessarily match that, which is strange to me. But I would have Arizona at 3, Duke at 4, but I think it is almost splitting hairs in a way when you really look at the metrics and how some of these voters are probably deciding their rankings.
Yeah, and when you're splitting hairs between Duke and Arizona and you're a national media voter, your choice becomes pretty easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't actually watch the Arizona games, which I would, I don't think a lot of these voters are watching many of these games as is. I think that it's a lot of box score watching that's going on, and not a lot of, like, hey, and not to like put excuses on the table, but, like, Arizona's playing a 6-man rotation against Texas Tech in a game that goes to overtime. If Koa Peat plays that game, I know he hasn't been playing great basketball as of late, but I really do think that is, like, the type of differentiator that could have put a Wildcats team that didn't have one of their best players who has been slumping over the top in that matchup. But yeah, I mean, I guess, I'm a little surprised as well, Kevin, by the strength of schedule stuff. And we are splitting hairs ultimately with Arizona losing back-to-back games, and you kind of drop into the class with the rest of these teams that, it was Arizona was undeniable for number one for much of this season. You talk about the 9 weeks, record-setting amount of time that Arizona was number one in the poll. Like, it's hard to take the undefeated team that has beaten all the ranked opponents that they've played against, which there were a few of them, and say, you know what, you guys don't belong at number one. The second Arizona is being put, or their record looks similar to the rest of these teams, they then drop below these teams, and that's where the splitting hairs is like, yeah, it's Arizona. They're getting put in the back here, as we've known all season, that like Michigan, Duke, and to a lesser extent Houston are the bells of the ball. They're what college basketball analysts want to talk about and prop up as the top teams here. And so, yeah, it's not exactly surprising. I don't think it's egregious, like you said, Kevin, but it's just funny how it's always Arizona that if it's comparable, Arizona's going to find a way to be the one that's put at the back of the pack.
Yeah, no. And I also think in this, rankings conversation, like, I think people hear us talking about rankings and kind of maybe getting caught up in it, whatever you want to say about it. But, like, ultimately, what matters most is getting a dub at Houston on Saturday. Arizona could be ranked 25th, really, realistically, for all I care, as long as they get a win at Houston on Saturday, and especially as long as they protect home court against BYU. But primarily, beating Houston is the thing you need to do in this scenario, and then handling business against BYU. But yeah, I think what matters most right now is that Arizona kind of gets off the schneid, so to speak, gets off the slip here right now. They've dropped 2 in a row for the first time, and I don't know how long. I'd have to go back and look to see when the last time Arizona dropped 2 in a row was. I could probably do it really quickly during an ad break potentially, but yeah, I think that this is a situation where Arizona's got to get back on track, and we can't be worried as fans about what we're ranked, right? Because that's really what it is. The team could give a damn. The fans are the ones that give a damn about the ranking. Yeah. But I think even the fans right now are like, no. We got to be business-oriented, Damon. We got to get a dub against BYU and then a dub against Houston to get back on track, right?
Yeah, that's talking points for gas bags like me and Kevin to talk about on our daily podcast, because that's what the discourse is, right? And so, we got to get into it, but ultimately you're right. It doesn't matter. What matters is handling business and finding a way to, again, be undeniable and put yourself back into the conversation for the number one overall, team in the country. Because maybe Duke does because of their pathetic ACC schedule, but I don't think Michigan's running the table. Michigan will, I think, falter again and sustain a loss. And if Arizona can handle business, if Arizona can beat Houston and differentiate itself from Houston, then you're right back to probably being number 2, right then and there, right? I mean, that would be a massive win against the team that's currently ranked number 2. And then I think you have every opportunity once Michigan does falter to retake that number 1 spot and claim it as your own again by, like you said, handling business and beating the teams that are on your schedule. So it doesn't matter. What matters is getting the 1 seed in the West at the end of the day when it's tournament time and the committee puts the bracket together. And we're a long ways away from that. We got a lot of games in between then and now.
Are you saying we're fine out West? And on that note, let's head to our first ad break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. On the other side, we're going to be breaking down, Arizona's slump, if we're calling it a slump, what's really going on with the slump, what's contributing to it, and we have some stats for you. On the other side of this break on the AZ Wildcats podcast, leave a like, drink your water, do not go anywhere. You know the drill. If you have been involved in a serious injury, you have to do your research, and the only result you're going to find is that the husband and wife law team, Mark and Alexis Breyer, are your best bet for serious injury and wrongful death litigation, because the husband and wife law team bring in hundreds upon hundreds of years of combined experience in trials here to the Valley, with I believe they have something like 8 children or something out here. And if you don't believe that these people want to make the Valley their home, that is all the evidence you need. But most importantly, when it comes to the work that they do, you can find them at 602-783-8841. And when you call that number, you will learn that they have some promises that they make to you. Like, you can reach them at any time for any reason, and you can also cancel your fee agreement at any time. And most importantly, you can trust that Mark and Alexis Breyer, the husband and wife law team, will let you know the strengths and the weaknesses of your case so that you're working with a full deck of cards. So if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first, 602-783-8841, or visit husbandandwifelawteam.com, link in our show notes below.
We are here in the great Studio K, sponsored by our friends over at Circle K. And of course, Circle K is always trying to find you ways to save. Now, Kevin, there was a fuel day last week. February 12th on Thursday, it was a Circle K fuel day, 40 cents off per gallon all day for fully enrolled Circle K members. I know I took advantage of it. I hope that you guys did too. But you got to be on the lookout for these fuel days. They have about one every single month where they are just trying to help you save money. And let me tell you, I just bought myself a new truck, Kevin. It takes a lot more gas than what my previous vehicles did. And these Inner Circle Circle K fuel days are absolute game changers for me these days. And of course, I'm an Inner Circle Rewards member, so I can stack it with my other member offers as well. Of course, I get 5 cents off per gallon every time I fill up because I'm a premium member. Regular members get 3 cents off per gallon. Don't worry, guys, though. It's gonna be a quick transition into that premium status. It really only takes a couple of months there, and you become a premium member. And then, of course, don't forget the 25 cents off per gallon that you save on your first 5 fill-ups at the tank. Guys, the gas savings are right there in front of you with the Inner Circle Rewards membership program. They also have all of the great caffeine deals, meal deals, snack deals, you name it. Circle K is America's thirst stop and just really America's place for getting geared up and ready to go for your work day or whatever you got going on the agenda. We love Circle K. We appreciate them for sponsoring us here at PHNX Sports. And guys, become that Inner Circle Rewards member yourself today for free by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for details.
Welcome on back into the AZ Wildcats podcast, where today I guess we're discussing just how hard is Arizona slumping. Is this a slump? I think you kind of have to, by definition, call it a slump, right? You have an undefeated team going into this 2-game stretch, and then they drop 2 straight, one on the road, understandable circumstances, one at home, slightly less understandable circumstances, but still Texas Tech, JT Toppin doing what they do. Damon, first of all, let's start here. Would you describe Arizona as a team that's in a slump right now? Is that even a fair way to have this conversation?
Yes, I do think so, because you're not playing your best basketball. I mean, it's definitely a stretch of your schedule that is understandable for that to be the case, right? But I think that this team is at its best when Koa Peat is playing and giving you something. And since that ASU moment where he reached down and was grabbing his lower leg and then seemingly played through it the last 3 games after that, it seems as though he's been different, Kevin. And I would say that it's almost not really possible for Arizona to play its best style of basketball with Koa Peat, not even close to 100%, not giving you what you received from him early on in the season.
Yeah, and I think that I would right now describe Arizona as a team that's in a slump, albeit, relative to what they've been doing the rest of the year. I think any team would be very happy to have the level of play Arizona had, even in their last 2 losses. However, by Arizona standards, this is a stark dip in production and result from what you've had the first 23 games. Now,
and I'll add in, Kevin, I think it feels worse because you had leads for a majority of both of those games. Like you felt like the win was right there for you, right? And you didn't get a whole lot from Koa Peat. You didn't get a whole lot from Jaden Bradley. Those have probably, been 2 of your 3 best players for majority of this season. And so, I think it's in part because, yeah, you're feeling worse right now because of the results of these games, but it's not as if Arizona just went out there and embarrassed themselves against Kansas on the road or a really good Texas Tech team that has already beaten Duke and Houston this year at home. Like, it's a long season. Those are really good teams, and you had a 10 and an 8-point lead respectively in both of those games in the second half. And you just didn't find ways to make plays down the stretch, and it ultimately led to the loss. But you make a couple shots that you miss. I mean, I think Arizona missed its final 7 field goal attempts against Texas Tech in regulation.
I think so.
And I mean,
it was 9-0 run from
you
Texas
make 1
Tech,
or 2 of those, it's game over. So we could be singing a different tune right now if the result was just changed, even though that doesn't really change how Arizona played, right?
No, yeah, I agree with you. And I also think, like, going back to the Koa Peat part of what you were bringing up in relation to is this team slumping, like, I think you bring up a couple extra made shots. That's what you were saying there. And then you combine that with what you were saying about Koa Peat and Jaden Bradley. I compiled some stats, Damon. Now, I didn't, full transparency, didn't have time to compile it into a graphic because this is a lot of numbers, as you see in our rundown here. But I have Jaden Bradley's numbers at Kansas versus Texas Tech, and then the average of those two games. So I'll just give you the average verbally here. Over the last two games, very small sample size, but albeit, I think, against teams that you're going to have to play well against if you're going to cut down nets in March. You're going to have to be a caliber player that can ball out against on the road in Kansas and versus Texas Tech at home. Jaden Bradley, 27.3 from the field. That's percent. 27.3% from the field. 62.5 from the free throw line. 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.5 turnovers, 8.5 points per game. Now you compare that to his overall season stats, 48.7 from the field, 40 from 3, 78.8 from the free throw line, 13.4 points, 3.4 rebounds, 4.4 assists. In terms of Jaden Bradley's play, I think his, and this kind of goes into what Brian Edwards was actually asking here, but his shot selection has differed drastically the last couple games, but not as a result of anything he's done, but rather a result of the defense that is being played against him. Teams for these first 23 games, I feel like, were really struggling to stop Jaden Bradley from getting to his spots. Kansas, Texas Tech did a wonderful job of making sure Jaden Bradley did not get below the free throw line without a bump off his footing or, taking away his shooting pocket, whatever. Because down the stretch, like you said, you just needed a couple extra run-stopping buckets from either Jaden Bradley or a Koa Peat, and you just didn't have Koa Peat on the floor, first of all, but you also did not have Jaden Bradley making his shots. I mean, against Kansas, 2 for 8 from the field, against Texas Tech, 4 of 14, and yeah, you just needed a little bit more out of JB. I think that is a large reason why we're not getting the results in these games. I'm not going to blame the whole level of play dip on Jaden Bradley, but I think the reason you're maybe not able to finish out these teams, stomp on their neck, is because you don't have 8 to 8 points in the clutch from Jaden Bradley like you've been getting the superhuman version of him the rest of the year. But I think, like Brian Edwards says here, it's kind of a result of the defense that teams are playing against us. And it goes to the bigs, but it also shifts onto the guards as well. Brian Edwards says, first half, Tech put Mo in his drop coverage, and then Anderson killed us on threes. Have teams figured out something with bringing our bigs out of the paint? And I've really noticed recently, as well as I assume Brian did here, that teams have been cooking Mo Krivas, respectfully, on the high lobs over the top as he's trying to track back. I think back to the Flory Badunga dunk, right? That's not the first time KU had tried that exact setup.
Too soon. We don't talk about that.
Well, we got to talk about it if we're talking about Mo Krivas.
This is Men in Black Flash. Everyone just forgot exactly what happened.
But they bring up the screen at the side of the hash there, and then they run a little on the side pick and roll. And the big's job is to just sprint as hard as they can to the basket and hope they beat Mo Krivas down there. Pass already coming over the top. Mo Krivas is looking at it go. By the time he knows where it's at, it's in the bottom of the bucket. I think teams have been doing a lot better at pulling Krivas out of the paint, throwing it back over the top, and just seeing what happens if you have a guy like Badunga, like Toppin, who are athletic enough to both catch and finish at the rim over a guy like Krivas. So I do think teams are starting to learn how to deal with this bully ball that Arizona employs, and it's now incumbent upon Arizona to respond to this kind of defense, right? Because 27.3 from the field from Jaden Bradley over the last 2 games, that's not the Jaden Bradley that we know he is, right? So what is happening? I think it's the defense that's being played against him and probably just some unfortunate roles and stuff like that. But yeah, I think Jaden Bradley's kind of last 2 games performance is part of the reason why you're sitting at 4th in the rankings and 0-2 in your last 2.
Yeah, and to kind of expand upon a point that you made there, I do think that Jaden Bradley has found it difficult to get into his spots versus Kansas and Texas Tech in these last 2 games, and I do think that the defense of both of those teams needs to be applauded, and also that's what Tommy Lloyd should be watching for. What can Arizona do to counter? Because it felt like the style of defense that was being played by Bill Self and deployed by Bill Self and Grant McCasland was very similar. Pack the paint, run Braden Burries and Jaden Bradley off their spots, and force maybe a couple of the more, I don't want to call them like role players, but like the guys who are not the offensive engines to be the guys that are taking and making buckets. And Karchenkov has had 2 better games scoring wise in those 2 matchups than, his season averages, but it's not necessarily coming in the most efficient way. It's not like he's killing the team, but you can see that there's a clear designated plan from the opposition on defense to say, hey, we're fine with Karchenkov getting 14 shots a game, right? Because that's not really what Arizona's game plan is. It throws them off their game a little bit. But one thing I will say, Kevin, is that I thought Braden Burries was nothing was coming easy for Braden Burries in that Texas Tech game in particular. The Kansas game, maybe a little bit more so. He was cooking. But against Texas Tech, I felt like he didn't have the ball nearly as much in his hands as he has in recent games, but he still found a way to contribute at a high level. He still put up 16 points. He still, when he got those openings, when he got a kick-out three-pointer, he's nailing it, right? Yeah. Because he's making the most of his opportunities and he's being efficient still, even if it's not necessarily the Braden Burries game that we have come accustomed to seeing, in these recent weeks here for Arizona, where he's just been kind of taking over these games. I thought that's kind of what Jaden Bradley needs to figure out for me, Kevin, is that even if it's not going to come easy, even if you're playing these elite level teams that are, going to maybe suppress you in what, Jaden Bradley's best, quote unquote, best game of the season would be, find ways to stay efficient, find ways to continue to help your team win these basketball games, because that's what I watched Braden Burries do against Texas Tech. And I didn't feel the same about Arizona's senior point guard, who really, I think, should be the guy who it kind of plays that steadying role more than anybody. He did last season for Arizona, and you expect that out of a guy with that much experience who has proven to be so steady out the course of his college basketball career. So I'm sitting there and I'm going, even if you can't have the quintessential JB game, classic Jaden Bradley just, gets down the stretch and it's 10 points in the final 10 minutes of the game, find ways when you do have openings to be efficient, hit your shots, and help your team win basketball games. And Arizona would have won that game against Texas Tech if Jaden Bradley could have just maybe even in those moments just picked his spots and come up with buckets in those moments.
I mean, we waited this long to say it, but it's true. That 3 on Atwell at the end of the game is solely on Jaden Bradley's shoulders.
I think that's almost a consequence of his probably being out of his offensive game, don't you?
Potentially, yeah. But just in a vacuum, like that one play where, it's the 3, right? Like, and then that's kind of the game at that point. Like, yep. Jaden Bradley kind of just falls asleep on Donovan Atwell, truly the one perimeter guy outside of Christian Anderson that you cannot fall asleep on. And ironically, I was talking to my mom about this, and she was kind of saying, like, how my mother is. He's human. He makes mistakes. He's human. And I said, like, I agree. Jaden Bradley is human. He's going to make errors. Like, that's kind of, part of why maybe his offensive game is not as good right now. He's just human. He's going to go through slumps. But there are mistakes you make at your job that you just can't do. Mm-hmm. You can't make those, and you don't get the he's human excuse for that one, right? Like, that one, and Jaden Bradley would tell you this himself, that one's unacceptable.
Yep.
Falling asleep on Donovan Atwell in the corner, at home in a game you don't necessarily need, but you really, really want, coming off a loss at Kansas, to bounce back, and you fall asleep and it hits a 3, and yeah, now we're going to OT, and now Texas Tech is winning the game in your court, and it's a whole thing. So yeah, I think that Jaden Bradley, I totally believe in him to bounce back. I totally believe in him to continue to be the guy we know he is, but the last 2 games have not been it from Jaden Bradley. Sergio Sanchez in the chat brings up a decent question. Do we think Bradley is having a hard time with Burries kind of taking over the offense? And I feel like the answer is no, only because I'm inclined to believe that Jaden Bradley can just lean on his experience playing next to Caleb Love for that type of stuff. Jaden Bradley was successful next to Caleb Love, and I think Caleb Love is a much more ball-dominant guy than a Braden Burries is. As much as I love Caleb Love, I think he's a little bit harder to play complementary basketball with if you've never played with him before than a Braden Burries is. So I'm inclined to think that this is not that going on. Damon, what do you think?
I agree. Jaden Bradley hasn't been slumping for, 6 weeks, and that's how long Braden Burries has been maybe the best player on this Arizona roster for. Jaden Bradley's been slumping for 2 games. And so that's where I agree. I think that your Caleb comparison is fantastic. Like, if he could find a way to be, in our opinion, the best player on last year's roster next to Caleb Love, despite not maybe having a ton of usage because his combo guard next to him is a guy that wants the ball in his hands a lot. And Jaden Bradley was finding ways to kind of be, very, very, very impactful on these games, despite not having that insanely high usage. But I do think it's an interesting point and something to monitor, right? But I just, all in all, I think that, I watched the way Braden Burries played, and that's how I would expect my senior leader of the team to play when things aren't necessarily going great. And even Braden Burries, let's throw in the rebounding, right? Someone put it up there in the chat. Him skying over dudes and mossing them essentially for these rebounds. It was incredible. And Braden Burries knew he didn't have the ball in his hands probably as much as he wanted to, right? And he was like, how else can I impact winning? Oh, I'll really crash the boards hard. And that's Jaden Bradley, conversely, his inefficient offensive performance potentially leads to him falling asleep on defense for the biggest defensive gaffe of the game. So you can't have that. As you said, it's unacceptable. And we know that Jaden Bradley is going to figure it out. This is not a situation where Kevin and I are coming up here and being like, man, Arizona's season's about to be over if Jaden Bradley doesn't figure it out. He will figure it out. That's a Christmas promise, Kevin. But you need better out of the guy that is supposed to be your leveler, your steadier, the guy who is the leader of this team emotionally and on the court. So him and Tobe, right? And Tobe showed up in that moment when you needed him to play more, and Koa Peat was out, and the rotation gets thin, and Tobe Waka is all of a sudden basically playing 35 minutes, and what did he do? Put up one of his best performances of the entire season. That's what you need out of your seniors, and I think we will find that out of Jaden Bradley very, very shortly here. Just not to be over the last 2 games here.
Yeah, and I think that, if we're talking about slumping, it's not just Jaden Bradley. It's not just Jaden Bradley. And I think we can talk about ADO here and talk about Delhi here before we get to Koa Peat, because I think Koa Peat's conversation is going to be a little bit more sizable than Delhi's, but we can break this one down really quick. Anthony Delorso, I think, is a player that Arizona, if they're going to win a national title this year, I think they at least need ADO to be playing at an average level for him. And I think recently he has been playing at a below average level by Anthony Delorso standards. And I think a lot of people might hear that and say, well, what do you mean? He's always been, mid on defense, bad on defense, whatever you want to say about that. But I'm talking about, what is he out there to do? He is out there to shoot threes, make threes, and not F up on the defensive end. I think this year he's done a lot better at growing his game, becoming a more capable defender, becoming a more capable offensive player. But we have not seen the extreme high level, 99th percentile level shooting that Anthony Delorso is capable of. I mean, the man, Damon, when he was at Campbell and he was absolutely balling for the Camels, right? The man was shooting 32% from 3 his freshman year in 2022-23, 38% from 3 his sophomore year, 41% from 3 last year when he came over to Arizona. That's 41% from 3. And then this year, he's shooting 29.7. So I think this year has been a slump in shooting standards for ADO, no matter which way you cut it, no matter how you feel about his level of play in the Big 12. He has not been playing up to his own standard recently. Mm-hmm. And even more recently, Damon, if you look at Big 12 play, man, this is unfortunate. But he's averaging 30.9 from the field. That's percentage. He's averaging 23.5% from 3 in the Big 12 this year. 38.2 on his twos, 1.8 rebound, 1.8 assist on just 5.2 points. On the overall season, for comparison, he's averaging 8 points, 2 boards, 2.5 assists, 38.4 from the field, 29.7 from 3, as I already mentioned, turnover and a half. So, I mean, if Arizona is going to be the team that we think that they could be, you need at least 1 or 2 threes from ADO every once in a while. You don't need him to be Steph Curry. You don't need him to be, some Milan Momcilovic leaning and shooting corner threes. But you do need some sort of steady production from him, especially with Dwayne Aristote having an illness, especially with Koa Peat being down with whatever the hell he's got for however long he's down, whether it's no games, 1 game, 2 games, 3 games. whatever it is, you need to get more production from everyone now. And Anthony D'Alorso has not had 2 or more made threes in a game, Damon, since West Virginia, January 24th. We are coming up on a month since that game. And if you take out West Virginia, it hasn't been since TCU on January 10th when he had 3. So it's once in a blue moon that Anthony D'Alorso has really gotten going from 3 this year, and you kind of need him to do that. And I'm seeing Brian Edwards saying, I'm not sure what ADO's turnover rate is, but I'm guessing it probably is the worst on the team to go with his shooting woes. I'll look that up for you at some point today, maybe talk about it on tomorrow's show a little bit, but I think it would probably be double last year's, because last year he was averaging 0.7 turnovers a game. This year he's playing 2 more minutes a game, but he averages 1.4 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
So to Brian's point, I would assume the turnover rate is higher, and I would assume it's partially because he's trying to do more passing the ball than he really needs to. I think he's trying to get a little bit too creative because then he pulls off some really cool stuff, and we're all like, he's back, Delly's back. But I think he just needs to get back down to the basics. Hit or shoot and hit some threes and figure the rest out later.
Yeah, he has been putting the ball on the floor a lot more than he did probably in past seasons, or at least at Arizona, last season at Arizona. And I do think that has been the key factor in that turnover number doubling essentially. But yeah, I mean, he's got to figure out a way to do his role, right? It's nice when he adds in put the ball on the floor and make a little, shovel pass to a guy, or, gets kind of a sick layup, in, but that's not what we need him to do. And if he's just not going to provide the outside shooting component of things, we've talked about it before. We talked about it last season. He's hurting the team. That's what his role is, right? And so got to figure out a way to get him playing his best again, because as Arizona, gears up for Wednesday's matchup against BYU, you're probably without Koa Peat, and it sounds like Dwayne Aristote has the Black Plague because he's out for 6 days with this illness here.
Darren Peterson doing damage to us even after we played.
I mean, I don't know what's going on with
you got him sick
with Dwayne Aristote, but it's a long illness, Kevin, and it clearly is affecting him in a major way. And so that just makes Delly that much more important, because he almost has to score if both of those guys are going to be out. You play an 8-man rotation. Now you're down to 6. And who's that 6th man? Oh, that's right. It's Anthony D'Alorso, the guy who has been playing like crap for a while now. So him upping his level and playing to the level that we saw at the beginning of the season, and it's not like it was all against scrubs, Kevin. He was doing it against the better teams in Arizona's non-conference. He was looking really, really solid, and we were like, this is a different Delly that we're seeing this season. And then it's just completely cooled off for the consistent part of 2 months here. And yeah, got to figure out a way for him to kind of supplement that, those Koa Peat points in the meantime, because Arizona needs some buckets. And that is a guy who is solely on this roster to score, and he hasn't been giving you that recently.
No, I agree with you, Damon. And I think, like we said, if Arizona's going to reach their ceiling, you need at least 1 or 2 from Delly a game. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
I mean, especially right now, right, when your rotation is thinner. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And also, let me go ahead and address something in the chat. Old Texas Tech man, hand up. That was me who punctured the tire. I'll apologize for it. Is that the answer that you wanted to hear here on the AZ Wildcats podcast on a Monday morning? I'm sorry. I'll wear it. Apologies here. Won't happen again. That was big of me, Kevin.
It was. And that was a big tire that you spent probably a lot of time getting the air out of.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that was reprehensible, unacceptable.
Crazy how I was able to travel down to Tucson and then back up here in less than 20 minutes and do our post-game show. But, when there's a will, there's a way, Kevin. And I had to slash that tire.
Had to. I would also like to see one more thing on the Delly point of view. I would like to see him get more corner 3 opportunities. I'm seeing a lot of stuff, and I haven't really been tracking it, so maybe I'm just missing the ones because Delly's not in there the whole game, right? But Braden Burries gets a lot of pin down screens to go to the corner. Ivan Karchenkov, same thing. I would love to see Delly get some more of those, and so I feel like he just needs to hit his shots and feel more confident that he can do that consistently. One more player that has certainly not been playing at his highest level, and there's a variety of reasons potentially for that, is Koa Peat. Koa Peat, injury or not, has not been playing up to his standard recently, right? And whether you believe he's been playing banged up for 3 games or for 3 days, right? Whether you believe that he's been playing banged up for since the ASU game or just since he got taken out of that Texas Tech game, I think we can all agree that this is not the same level of Koa Peat that we've gotten recently, right? Since that first, non-conference stretch from him. Damon, I have some I won't say pretty concerning, but I have some not fun stats from Koa Peat that I'm just going to rattle off to you here, and then we can kind of open up the Koa Peat can of worms here. Since Big 12 play opened up, Koa Peat has 7 games with 5 or less rebounds. Only 1 game with 10 or more, I believe. Maybe he has 2. I should double check that. But he has 6 games with 5 or more rebounds in the non-conference. But over his last 5 games, I got to double check this. That can't be right. Okay, yeah. Defensive rebounds, it is actually unfortunately correct. Defensive rebounds, he averages 3.1 per 40, which is 30th percentile in the country over his last 5. Over his last 5.
Townsend-esque.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
It's not great. And part of that is you have Mo Krivas, part of that is you have Tobe Awaka, and part of that is you have Braden Burries. I'll throw Braden Burries in there as well because that's a dude who randomly scoops up 7-8 rebounds in a lot of these games because he's such a high-level rebounder, which I believe my guy Kevin was first on. But you play a system where your bigs are going to dominate the boards. You play with Tobe Awaka, who's maybe the most dominant rebounder I've ever seen in college basketball. But yeah, you got to find a better way to contribute on the rebounds than that when you're a starting front court player, especially the per 40. Like that's the thing there that's kind of jaw dropping is it's supposed to look better when you expand it out like that, and it really doesn't at all.
No, it just gets more scarce.
Yeah.
3.1 defensive rebounds per 40 minutes. Less than 1 defensive board every 10 minutes he's out there if you play a full 40. It's kind of shocking, right? Because you hear Tommy Lloyd talk way back now in the season, but I remember posting a clip to my Twitter when I was very encouraged that Tommy Lloyd was like, my expectation for Koa Peat is that one day he will rebound like Tobe Awaka because I believe he has the level of physicality, athleticism, tenacity to do just that. And we've seen him go in the opposite direction. It feels like his rebounding has gotten, I'm not going to say it's gotten worse because I feel like he's getting better at the college level every day he's here. But you get my point, right? The production has certainly diminished since that comment, it feels like. And I have one more this one kind of is concerning, I would say, Damon. His effective field goal percentage. Now, over for the season, 55.4%. Over his last 5 games, 42.6, 20th or 22nd percentile in Division I for effective field goal percentage. And I feel like for a guy that his game is so at the rim, his game is so above the rim, you got to shoot a higher percentage than that. And in his defense, if he's been playing banged up without the same lift, without the same level of push off on some of these back downs and whatnot, like Ernesto literally just said, it's like I queued him up. He said, I feel like his hops have been affected. Have we seen an alley-oop or an athletic dunk from him in a good minute? And you've seen some Koa Peat dunks, but I think you can agree here, right, Damon? We haven't seen the same lift from Koa Peat in quite some time.
Absolutely not. What's coming to mind is that Braden Burries pass up the court, that outlet pass against Arizona State in the last game versus ASU where Braden throws that beautiful pass and then Koa catches it and then gives us a nice emphatic slam right afterwards. But I believe that was before he started reaching down and grabbing his lower leg in that ASU game. And I think it was Ernesto as well who asked the question, do we know when this happened? I'm pretty sure it's that game. I mean, we are very much in the dark here on the Koa Peat side of things. Full disclosure, Arizona still hasn't even announced what the injury is. They just keep saying lower leg.
Speculation alert. Speculation alert. Continue now.
Yeah, I mean, they just keep saying lower leg injury, right? And they're not giving us, much of anything. But it does seem that since that ASU moment where he's running back down the court, grimacing, holding, kind of that lower ankle-ish area, that he's been a different player, and he hasn't had the same impact. He hasn't had the same explosiveness, and he hasn't had the same ability to draw fouls in particular at the rim. And so, yeah, I mean, Koa Peat it's been not pretty. It really hasn't been pretty. And we all know, Arizona can't hit its ceiling and its peak and get to where it needs to go this season without Koa Peat playing at least good basketball. Like, this team is so balanced, and you know, the 8 players in it, and really maybe like the six players in it, if we put Aristotle and Delhi to the side for a second, are so good that they can supplement a little bit of production if Koa Peat takes a slight step back from maybe, like, you know, he's not Florida Koa Peat. We know that, but you need him to give you double-digit points, because otherwise you're just not going to have the success in the tournament style situations that you need if Koa Peat isn't out there and firing on all cylinders. But I did want to broach a topic here, Kevin. On the other side of this break, we have one more ad break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast, and I got to ask my guy Kevin a question, put him on the spot right on the other side of this break. So drop a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, drink your water, and do not go anywhere.
Look, I know the Arizona Wildcats have been kind of slumping as of late, Damon, but one way to unwind after maybe a bit of a stressful game is with our friends over at Pure Edibles, because the effects are clearly listed on the outside of the tin. So whether it's unwind, uplift, balanced experience, you know exactly what you're getting into with our friends over at Pure Edibles. And my favorite thing about our friends over at Pure Edibles, this is a Freedom State founded company right here in the state of Arizona at Noble Herb Dispensary is where it started, the home of Pure Edibles. And this is not just some, you know, chemical, sugar covered candy. No, this is a full-fledged candy company offering all your fun stuff, CBN, CBG, CBD, and marijuana derived THC. So, you know, you already know where to find them. At over 130 dispensaries in the state, you can find Pure Edibles, whether it's their actual edible products like their kicks, gummies, chews, or hard candies, or their collab with Mother Road, where they have Noble Road's new Tower Station IPA all in one. So go find yourself some Pure Edibles from one of the over 130 dispensaries that dispense them.
Of course, Pure Edibles, just an absolute, you know, just one of the staples, Kevin. I always say it, but we love our friends at Pure Edibles, and we also love our friends over at, let's see here.
Gila River.
Gila River Resorts and Casinos had a little bit of an issue on the back end here, but of course, Gila River Resorts and Casinos is helping bring Vegas to you. They're bringing the Vegas vibes to the Valley, and they are doing it from now until the end of April. Kevin, Vegas residency includes, but is not limited to, exclusive concerts, extended DJ sets, showgirls, chef-driven dining, pop-up bars, and surprise cameos. And you don't want to miss out on that fabulous Corvette giveaway and special perks for loyalty members as well. Giving out 4 Corvettes at all 4 Gila River Resorts and Casino locations from April 27th to April 30th. They're doing 4 straight drawings each one of those days. Look up their website for more ways that you can win those fabulous Corvettes. But of course, guys, I was just in Vegas. I gotta say, Gila River Resorts and Casinos really does bring Vegas to your backyard. You don't gotta make that brutal long drive. I just made the drive myself. It was awful. Brought the truck back from Vegas. But I'll tell you, I wish it was just a nice little simple route to a Gila River Resort and Casino location and back, because they are right there in your backyard, and it is so much damn fun. So get in on it yourself. You bring you. We're bringing the Vegas vibes over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Only at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for the full calendar of events. We're back here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Please drop a like on this video if you are here in the chat. We appreciate you guys. Get involved in the chat. We love involving the chatters here into our conversation on a daily basis. And of course, we got all of the staples here of the chat. As always, Kevin, just holding it down and keeping us honest the way that it should be. And speaking of keeping us honest, I got to keep my boy Kevin honest right here on the spot. And I hate to do this to you, Kevin, because I know that it means a lot to you, and I know that this is not how you want it to go. But are we just not going to talk about my boy Kevin goes down to McHale and the Cats just blow it?
No, because the Cats lost the game before.
Coincidence?
Yes.
You tell me.
Because the Cats lost literally the game before. If it was like to be no longer undefeated, I'd actually hear you out. But yeah, nah, I'm not gonna go.
We were 9.5-point favorites, Kevin.
I'm not gonna go. Look, Erica tried that same BS earlier in the chat, and I said, "You're cut off from getting my girlfriend's cookies."
Is it Alekeme? Is it Alekeme that's the problem, or is it Kevin? Because he went to both those games as well.
You know what I didn't do?
0 for 2.
Timeout. Real talk. You know what I didn't do? Go to the baseball game. You know what I didn't do?
Go to the softball game.
Go to the softball game. You know what I didn't do? Rename the damn arena during the middle of the season. So don't blame me. If you're going to do this superficial bullshit, blame Alekeme Arena. You know what I mean? Because, I don't know, man. We're going to blame me for Jaden Bradley falling asleep on defense in the corner? I don't think so. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast, my
Was
friend.
he distracted by his boy Kevin? He goes, "Oh my God, it's Kevin!" And then all of a sudden,
Dude.
here's our man wide open for a 3-pointer over here.
Nah, I was in the media auxiliary. JB couldn't even see me. You know what I mean? The JB couldn't even see me if he tried. Brian Edwards says, "What was the reaction to Caleb's intro?" Pretty big pop for Caleb Love in Tucson. To be honest with you, they played like a nice little tribute video before when he was coming out to get his Ring of Honor induction. So the crowd pop was pretty good. I'll say this. I know this is a bit of a diversion, but we were asked about the crowd reaction. And now we're talking about me being in Tucson, Damon. I've heard rumors that Braden Burries has like taken the chain of like loudest pop during the intros. So I was kind of ears perked. Man, Braden Burries gets the crowd going during those pregame intros, Damon. They say, now a 6-foot whatever guard from California, Braden Burries. And it's it's crazy loud in there for Braden Burries. It gets right there to almost to the same level for Jaden Bradley, but it's like it's Braden Burries, Jaden Bradley, 1A, 1B kind of vibe. But the fact that Braden Burries has gotten to that point in 6 months in Tucson is incredibly impressive because Jaden Bradley's put blood, sweat, and tears into this program for a couple of years now. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I don't think that it was my fault that they lost, Damon. I'm not going to lie to you. Honestly, I'm first one that's like, oh, I broke routine. When we lost against Kansas and I got my hair done that day, I was like, it's my fault. I should have stayed looking bummy. It's literally my fault we lost. But going down to Tucson, I didn't feel like it was me. I didn't feel any of that bad juju. I really didn't.
Well, I know I already put my hand up and took accountability for it, but people are asking if there's a coincidence that, opposing teams' tires are being slashed the one game that Kevin's in Tucson. That's a question that's been on the minds of many, I've heard, in the Arizona Wildcats streets. So would you care to comment?
All will be revealed in due time. I
know we're joking about it. Obviously, it's not cool.
No, it's messed up.
Kevin and I both are very against that and think that it's definitely not a good representation of this fan base. But just trying to have some fun on a Monday. Nobody got hurt. Nobody got hurt. It's unfortunate that it happened. It's not a good look on this fan base. But if we can't joke about things like that, then what are we even doing here on this podcast every day?
But it's also like, dude, what kind of deranged, sick freak does that?
It's
like your basketball team
weirdo,
loses a game
behavior.
And you're like, I'm so angry. I need to go slash the tires of the opposing team because that's going to make me feel better, knowing I've derailed their next 6 hours and maybe their sleep before ASU. You really win. You really win the chess match there, buddy.
Meanwhile, BYU fans are trying to figure out a way that they can make this about them.
Go in there and make it about BYU.
Absolutely. So we'll probably figure that one out on Wednesday when BYU comes to town. And let's not do any of those chants in a very similar kind of vein, Kevin. I mean, not that I don't think anyone that would be listening to this podcast would be getting involved in something like that. But last year, obviously, another not great look on this Arizona fan base with some of the things that were said after the BYU game last year. So yeah, got to just be better as fans. And, I know that this fan base is full of great community, great people. And I know that as a whole that this is something that we don't think is cool. So it's not that, this is going to make a whole lot of impact, but just feel like, just in the sake of our jokes and whatnot, got to get out there and be serious for a second, which is hard for your boy.
Well, Damon, to wrap up today's show.
And yes, Kobe, I am a thug, confirmed.
To wrap up today's show, Damon, I wanted to talk a little bit of recruiting news because we do have a Caleb Holt update. We're getting this from Joe Tipton's most recent article over there at Rivals /On3/ I don't know what their official. I think it's On3. Joe Tipton works for, but it's also Rivals, which is also a whole thing. But
it's Rivals and On3. They've combined.
Okay, cool. Caleb Holt, number 4 ranked prospect in the 2026 class, is down to his top 5: Alabama, Arizona, Providence, Kentucky, and Houston. And right now, for a while now, it seemed like it's going to be Arizona and Alabama.
Yep.
From Joe Tipton's most recent article, this is a quote, says, "Recently, I've heard more buzz around the Wildcats rather than the Tide, but I'm not ready to rule out Nate Oates and company yet. I would expect a decision from Holt before the McDonald's All-American game on March 31st. So we're about a month away from a potential Caleb Holt commitment to either Arizona, likely, or Alabama, maybe slightly less likely, but it's one of those two teams. He gave a prediction of Arizona, a confidence level of medium, and a biggest threat of Alabama. So that's kind of your Caleb Holt update. We're getting close to a deadline here for him, and it seems like it's Arizona or Alabama increasingly by the day.
Love to hear it, Kevin. I think that, when we've done Caleb Holt updates kind of along the way of his recruitment here, that's kind of been our impression of how things have unfolded, and that Arizona was in a really good spot because Caleb Holt not only likes Tommy Lloyd in the system that Arizona plays, but Caleb Holt sees Braden Burries. He sees Caleb Love, and he sees the role in which that he could be given at Arizona, and I think that that's enticing to him. It should be enticing to any high-level combo / shooting guard that wants to get a lot of usage and sees a lot of playing time available. And we're going to get there as we talk about next year's team and whatnot all offseason. And obviously, we still have a top 5 team in the country to be talking about right now. But it feels like there's a lot of holes to fill on next year's roster, and that Caleb Holt is maybe like the most important one that can't really be replaced elsewhere, right? Like that's the type of upper echelon elite freshman talent that Tommy Lloyd wants to bring in because it's unavailable on the transfer market. And if it is available on the transfer market, it costs $4 million. And that's Arizona's entire NIL allotment for transfer players that, gone in a pinch.
Well, hey, it went up to 5.7 now that you have the Alekeme deal. Okay.
Yes, I'm throwing around random numbers, but it does feel like Caleb Holt is like integral to what Arizona wants to do next season, and that you really have to get this commitment. And it's good to hear that Arizona is the perceived favorite as of now.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I also think if you are Caleb Holt and you're watching what Braden Burries is doing this year, you got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe in what Tommy Lloyd is able to do with a kid like your talent, like with a kid that possesses your talent like yours is what I'm really trying to say. And then before we get on out of here, Damon, we got big news in the Big 12. Jerome Tang is out. K-State looked at the bank account and said, I think we got enough to make this work. Let's just fire his ass and try to pay him. But then, here's the thing. So Jerome Tang gets fired, and I've been saying that they're not going to fire him because the buyout is too big. That's been my opinion once I saw the buyout and the reported number. I think it's like, I don't know how much it is, but off the top of my head. But it's a large buyout, and K-State did not seem like they wanted to pay it. And then he goes on that rant. That long rant that I played on the show when you were getting your truck out there in Vegas, putting 100 on black. You know what I mean? I was here talking about Jerome Tang. And I played the rant on the show. We talked about it on the show with people here in the chat. And I was saying, my brother, you built the sandwich. You're saying the ham does not deserve to be in this bread. The lettuce, tomato, onion, mayonnaise, none of it deserves to be in between this hoagie roll, right? And I'm like, brother, you baked the hoagie roll. You made the soup, and you're saying it's garbage. I don't understand you, Jerome Tang. And he's saying, well, I love this university so much. They need to understand why this university is so great. We're going to tour the university in the morning, have a history lesson on the university, and then we're going to have a 6 a.m. practice, and we're going to get this ship right.
Yeah.
Gets fired. And now they're trying to use that rant as cause for why they're firing him as a means to kind of try to weasel out of that buyout that is so hefty. Damon, what's your reaction to the firing of Jerome Tang? And 2, do you think that that's good enough for a for-cause firing?
So I guess the quote, the money quote that really upset Kansas State and what they're utilizing as for-cause reasons is essentially that when Jerome Tang went out and said, this was embarrassing, these dudes do not deserve to wear their uniform, and there will be very few of them in it next year. I'm embarrassed for the university. I'm embarrassed for our fans and our student section. It's just ridiculous. And now those are strong comments from a college head coach, right? That's some Mick Cronin stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And you expect it when you extend Mick Cronin multiple times like UCLA has, because he's brought them, of course, so much success. Who could forget all of the huge wins and seasons that Mick Cronin has put together at UCLA in, what is it, like year 8, and had one successful, actually tangibly successful year, which was a miracle run as an 11 seed. We'll talk about that a different day. But I don't think that's, I mean, how can you fire someone for cause for saying stuff like that? That seems a little bit crazy, no?
To Jason's point, right? Like Gottlieb and Dan Hurley might never do another presser after seeing this news. Because if that's what for cause firing looks like, then Danny Hurley, Bobby Hurley. Well, he might get for cause fired for a different reason. But yeah, like
Bobby's trying to get fired.
Exactly. He's trying to find causes, and then he can execute the causes and be fired. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Jerome Tang seems like a nice guy. He seems like a good dude at heart at the end of the day. And unless he's doing some crazy things behind the scenes that we're not privy to, I think the for cause firing is absolutely ridiculous, and it doesn't seem like it's going to hold up. And I understand why Kansas State is trying to do it because $18 million is a ton of money.
A lot of money.
But I'm not. I don't think that's holding up in a court of law. Essentially, the dude got fired because he's not doing a good enough job of coaching Kansas State, not because he's doing stuff that is disrespectful and embarrassing to the university, like they're trying to claim by saying that he was being embarrassing to the university by saying that the players were being embarrassing to the university.
And also
it's a weird little domino there.
And ending it by being like, they need to understand how awesome this program is, what it means to be a Kansas State Wildcat and wear the purple and gray and whatever the hell that means. But I think that you really can't say that he was trying to embarrass the university there. He was trying to get the university back to respectability in a lot of ways there. So
yeah,
very interesting. See how that's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to be him getting lesser of a buyout because of the rant, and that's kind of what they're searching, or if they're really thinking they can get off with this for cause firing and not pay him anything. I doubt that. If I'm to speculate, I feel like that's not going to hold up in a court setting, but we're going to see how that plays out. I don't think that he ends up coaching for a while, to be honest with you. And I would have played this video on the show, but there's music behind it, so we can't do that, thanks to whoever edited that damn video. But, there's a subwoofer somewhere downtown that is bumping.
Guys, we're on the 19th floor of a building, and I can hear a subwoofer right now.
I mean, you can probably feel it in the floor. I feel it in the wall. I'm holding the wall right now. I feel it in the wall.
Is that coming from an office or from the garage or just
I don't know.
I mean, that's the craziest subwoofer I've ever heard in my entire life.
I got headphones on, Damon. Well, I have one cup on. But you know what I mean? That's crazy.
For a second, I thought the building was falling, Kevin. I was like, how is that possible? That is insane. That is genuinely insane.
Either way, to wrap up the Jerome Tang thing, he kind of predicted his own downfall. There's a viral video going around. Like I said, I would have pulled it, but copyright issues would have, had us by the throat there. So he comes out and says, the plan, not the plan, but he comes out and says, this is what happens. You get hired, you do well, you get an extension. Year 1 is not good. Year 2, you get fired, and now you have to pay my buyout. And that's what they do in the NBA is what he's saying. They hire you to fire you, right? And I feel like it's kind of weird. You don't often see guys prophetically say how their career is going to, not career, but their job is going to end by being like, all right, going to do well, get an extension, not so well year 1 of the extension, really not so well in year 2, and then they get fired to get the buyout. And then me and my wife are going to go build schools and orphanages around the globe, is what Jerome Tang said in this video from a couple years back now. So I kind of wonder if he even dips back into coaching very soon. I kind of think he actually might remember this video and actually might go build some orphanages and schools. And as Parker Ainsworth, our friend, Houston Cougar friend from Big 12 Media Day, he quote tweeted this and said, if this is true, why not just let him go do that? Go be noble. Go build schools and orphanages. It's actually a much more noble cause than coaching college basketball. So, yeah, interesting stuff with this Jerome Tang situation.
The play for Jerome Tang is to start leveraging building orphanages in different countries as the reason that Kansas State needs to give him the $18 million. Use it as a ploy against Kansas State in trying to steal your money, big dog. I want you to go up there and be like, you know who you're depriving? You're not depriving me. You're not depriving my wife. You're not depriving my family and my children. Because we're set. We got money. It's fine. I've been a coach for a long time.
That's smart.
But you know who you're depriving? The wonderful children of the world who need orphanages built by me and my wife. And that $18 million, it could do so much good. So much good. And look what you're holding back. Kansas State hates the children. If I'm Jerome Tang, I'm free for legal counsel, brother. Hit me up. Hit my line. I ain't hard to find.
We know you got it as well, Jerome.
Dion style. I ain't hard to find. Find me. Let's talk. Awesome. Let's talk, bro. I got you. Guilt tripping them. But Kevin, before we move on from Jerome Tang, Jerome Tang to ASU, thoughts?
I love it, first of all. You and I were talking about it earlier. This sounds like a joke, but I kind of would take it more like seriously. I don't even know if Jerome Tang would coach a team with the word devil in the name. I genuinely don't know if he would play about that. Like, I don't think he plays about I don't know him like that.
Neither did Herm Edwards, bro. He even said it in his intro presser.
Yeah, but we found out Herm, you know what I'm saying?
Not all there.
Not the same maybe level of stick-to-itiveness with the book as maybe Jerome Tang is. Every press conference with Jerome Tang, win, lose, get blown out, get embarrassed. I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This team is an embarrassment to the world. Thank you. Moving on. And so, like, I think not Herm Edwards. I think Jerome Tang, like, genuinely might not play that. He might not even want to touch the Sun Devils because that might be the devil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I know our guy Anthony Totri is hyping himself up about it, saying Tang to Tempe Tang. I mean, can you imagine this video in the ASU locker room, Kevin? Little baby on in the background.
He runs into the ASU student section of 5 students to celebrate a win over Tulsa. It's gonna be electric.
Come
dude.
on!
Yay! It's 5. It's literally 5 grown men.
Oh, I thought this was ASU women's. I thought Molly Miller was the coach. I'm sorry. If Molly Miller's not here, okay, I'm leaving. Tickets were only $2, so it wasn't that big of a deal.
Jerome's going to try to sign a 5-star at ASU, and they're going to be like, ooh, sorry, Molly just got an All-American. Maybe next year. Maybe next year, Jerome. Maybe next year.
I do think we need to update some last-second Arizona sports that are not men's basketball on the way out, Kevin, because it was a big weekend in the way of Arizona sports. Not the best weekend, I will say.
Thank you, Alekeme.
As the softball program starting off against their 2-game series against Drake on Thursday, they played a doubleheader back-to-back. They win both those games. They only beat Drake 7-6 in the first one. Not the best performance in the entire world. Then they gear up for a series against Coastal Carolina and a 2-game series on Friday, Saturday, and they lose to Coastal Carolina, who, Kevin, I'm so sick of these bastards. I hate Coastal Carolina. Leave me alone, especially when it comes to the diamond sports. I'm tired of playing these guys, man. All they do is beat us. They kind of own us, and I don't want it to happen anymore because they're a damn Conference USA team. Get out of my life, Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Enough embarrassing my university. I'm done. Then Arizona goes on to win in a run rule. The next game against Coastal, doubleheader against Utah Valley, they win 15-0. And then Sunday game against Creighton, they win 8-0 in 6 innings. So 8-3 start for the Arizona softball team. 2 losses to Oklahoma in a series that was very winnable. You had the lead late in that 3rd game, which would have been a massive series, obviously. Oklahoma, a national title contender. And then you lose to Coastal Carolina, which is not a great result there. So it's early days in this Arizona women's softball, or just softball season, not women's softball, but Arizona softball season, early days, but not a great loss there to Coastal Carolina, although you find a way to respond. And then baseball, Kevin, no bueno. No bueno on the baseball side of things. Upset by Stanford on Friday, 7-10. Lost to number 12 Oregon State on Saturday, 6-7. And Michigan, a loss to Michigan on Sunday, a Michigan team that ASU unfortunately beat right before Arizona. So Arizona baseball 0-3 to start this season, albeit all against teams that are very legit. Oregon State, not a Power 5 team, but Oregon State, one of the best baseball programs in the country. Gotta turn things around. Omaha tomorrow on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Is the first pitch, and then you got a series against UConn Thursday through Sunday, 4 games. Going to be a big moment there for Arizona baseball to turn things around. And then Arizona women's basketball, obviously a big loss, OT loss to ASU and Molly Miller on Saturday as well. So not great in the way of other Arizona sports that we're talking about here, but early days in the diamond sports, a lot of season left. And then Arizona women's basketball, we always knew it wasn't going to be the year. I think you hoped for a little bit better season than what it's been so far. You've obviously not had Michaela Purdue, who announces that she is completely done. Her college career is over. Devastating, tragic news. Horrible way to end your college career, especially when you were supposed to be like the premier piece on a Big 12 team this year, which was going to be, I think, supposed to be a culmination of all of Michaela Purdue's hard work in women's college basketball, but just was not meant to be in the whole season in general, not meant to be, kind of a dream start for Becky Burke.
A couple more notes on the Diamond Sports, Damon. Shout out to Kez Lucas, who this is pretty cool. I know that the result's not that cool, but on the 14th, first collegiate hit, first collegiate home run. It does not end there. Second collegiate hit, second collegiate home run. Kind of insane for Kez Lucas. And then also a shout out to, on the baseball side of things, we had a first career hit, as I'm pulling it back up, from Caleb Denizian. Caleb. From our guy Caleb on the baseball team. First career hit. I mean, he's balling. I don't know. You know what? I probably shouldn't compare him to that guy. Isn't that guy a bad guy?
He's a terrible guy.
I don't know much about him. I know there's a song.
It just sounded like the way you kept saying his name. It sounded like it.
I know there's a song about the guy.
Yeah.
But either way, maybe we can talk about that after the show. I just wanted to give a shout out to those two. And then, obviously, Michaela Purdue. It felt like this is something I talked to Erica about in the moment once her announcement of it, she was injured, right? And that she was going to try to get back this season. Me and Erica were talking about, you can't fight science, people. You know what I mean? As soon as Michaela Purdue suffered that injury, the season was over. And I know that you look for second and third and fourth and fifth opinions if you are the person, because you do not want it to be over. But yeah, I saw that announcement and it felt like broken news to me. It is just as sad. I'm not trying to take away any sadness. It is just as depressing. But I was surprised that we got a second announcement the same season. I was like, oh, I thought this would have accompanied the first announcement, to be honest with you. But yeah, like you said, the opportunity to be the leading breadwinner for an Arizona team in the Big 12 in the first year of Becky Burke, and I'm sure the recruitment between Burke and Purdue must have been very interpersonal as well. I really believe in what you can bring to this team and what your skill set is, and whatever. So yeah, to see that happen for Michaela Purdue, super super depressing on that side of things, and also just you feel like if you have Michaela Purdue in a couple of these games, you come out on the other side of it. So. Yeah, Becky Burke continues to build the crowd. Damon, we're going to talk to Erica about this on Thursday. But that crowd for the women's basketball game, the first side of the doubleheader on Saturday, it was incredible. 8,700 strong. And I know that there were some people in my replies that were like, well, this is what happens when you give out free tickets. And I'm like, they didn't give out 6,700 free tickets. I'm not even sure they gave out 100. I don't know how many they gave out. But it could not have been such a significant number of free tickets that you got 8,700. That crowd cares about this team and will continue to care about this team under Becky Burke, it feels like. So, yeah, I wanted to give a shout-out to the Wildcat fans that showed up to that game because the team, that crowd, both crowds, men's and women's games that night, deserved wins because they were really good crowds.
Yeah, I mean, listen. It's only the men's basketball team is the only team on campus that isn't consistently giving out tickets, I feel like, for different events. Baseball, you can get free tickets through different organizations, through, maybe your company at work, whatnot. Every sport on campus, essentially. Football, absolutely, with as many seats as there are in the stadium. There's a lot of tickets are being given out, and having 8,700 people show up for a women's basketball game is incredible support. It's nothing to be scoffed at. I don't care if there's, some form of giveaways involved. You still got to show up for the game and invest your time into the program. And then when you're there at McHale, you're probably buying snacks, you're buying merchandise, you're spending money on the program that is thus going back into the university. It's helpful. It is helpful. And yeah, I mean, that's a stupid thing to really prop up and be like, well, when you give tickets away, listen, everyone gives tickets away. It doesn't mean that it always works out. Again, only does a men's basketball game feel like really a situation where they're probably, charging people as an arm and a leg for seats here in Tucson. Other than that, you can probably find free tickets to very cheap tickets anywhere you go. And that's with great fans that show up for a lot of different sports.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we also have from Brian Edwards in the chat saying Pima men's still rolling. We do have an update on that side. 27-0, baby. Pima Community College. The Aztecs still rolling, man.
This is a Pima Community College podcast, and welcome on into the AZ Aztecs podcast, where we
rips,
it does kind of rip, where we update you on all news Pima men's basketball. But it's cool to see. I mean, Tucson stays winning, Kevin.
Yeah, stays winning. When is their next game? I'll get that information for you. February 18th. So in 2 days, 7:30 p.m. at South Mountain Community College up here in Phoenix, Damon. Maybe
The boys pop out?
Oh, wait. That's BYU night. We genuinely can't. But we should go to a Pima game at some point this year. That could be really fun. They are at home February 21st, at home February 25th, and then March, obviously, you have some divisional, semifinal stuff. So 3 more opportunities to watch Pima Community College Aztecs play basketball, 1 in Phoenix, and then 2 at the West Campus Aztec Gym. So shout out to the 27-0 Pima Aztecs.
Shout out Pima, and shout out all those sports on campus. Even if it's not been a dream start to a lot of these seasons, as I said, there's a lot of season left. Softball showed a lot of fight against Oklahoma. Just got to find a way to be a little bit more consistent against some of the lower competition on your schedule. And then baseball, it's baseball. You lose games sometimes, especially to solid opponents. I think they'll figure it out. I think Chip Hale knows what he's doing when it comes to Arizona baseball. But we'll keep you updated on all things Arizona sports. Be on the lookout for our audio-only Arizona Roundup podcast where me or Kevin will be sitting down and giving you a nice little rundown of all things Arizona Wildcats athletics, and even try to get on a few exclusive interviews maybe with some of those more peripheral sports that are not football and basketball that we spend the bulk of our time talking about daily here on this very same channel at 2 p.m. every single damn day. Appreciate everybody for watching this show. We'll be back tomorrow on a Tuesday as well at 2 p.m. And then we got Wednesday pregame, postgame for BYU Arizona in a what has now become a must-win or maybe a can't lose for the Wildcats.
Gotta have it.
Maybe it's a gotta have it.
Shout out Steven.
Tune into tomorrow's show for me and Kevin to debate whether it's a gotta have it, can't lose, or a must win tomorrow, because that is the riveting type of stuff that you sign up for with the AZ Wildcats podcast, with Damon Dog, with Kevo Post. And of course, follow us at both of those handles and follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on all social media except for TikTok, where we're at AZ Wildcats Pod. It's been a banner show. It's been a great time. Appreciate everybody for being here. Been a long one, Kevin, but we got a lot to talk about on a Monday after such a massive Arizona Wildcats athletics weekend. We'll be back, like I said, tomorrow at 2 p.m., so be there for that one. Like this video in the meantime, and subscribe to the channel. And until then, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Shout out to Sheila Chavez for these incredible Brandon Bills lids.
We all silly like the mayor.